Balaji has this idea of like win and let win in that order. So it's like good to establish yourself into some domain or secure some wins in some domain, but then it's also good to uplift other people. And so it's like a positive sum, like win and let win. So it's like not like competing with someone or just like a zero sum that you should maybe distribute your wealth, and then you give it just to someone, but then you kind of don't have the upside of, like, I don't know, profiting from their success. But this is like win and let win. So both got richer, but Zuckerberg got much richer than Peter Thiel.
Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's Desk, a weekly podcast covering deep conversations on technology, philosophy, complex science, and civilization. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Wezesha DAO and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. In today's episode, I'll be talking with Jakub Simek about his article, True Charity is Investment, under the daily Balajisms series. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. Jakub Simek, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Duke. It's always a pleasure.
So in your article, you talk about the idea that true charity is not just about giving money or resources, but about investing in people and communities to help them become self-sufficient. Can you expand on the idea and explain how it differs from traditional notions of charity?
Yeah, so this idea that true charity is investment, it's maybe a bit controversial take by Balaji Srinivasan, but he explains it quite well with an example of Zuckerberg, who is a founder of Facebook, and Peter Thiel, who was the first outside investor into Facebook. So Peter Thiel is quite a well-known figure in Silicon Valley. He co-founded PayPal, so he was quite rich at the time when he invested into Zuckerberg, who was a son of a dentist. He was studying or dropped out from Harvard at that time. But he was like maybe middle class, maybe upper middle class, but he wasn't like particularly rich. You know, he was like a young founder. So, but Peter Thiel, he invested in Zuckerberg, and after those years, when the Facebook became really successful, they both get richer thanks to Facebook. Facebook's success, but actually Zuckerberg got much richer than Peter Thiel, you know. So like you invest into someone and you are much richer than him or her. But then after the founder is successful, then they actually might become much richer than you, but you also get richer, you know. So it's like a win-win. And Balaji has this idea of like win and let win in that order. So it's like good to establish yourself into some domain or secure some wins in some domain, but then it's also good to uplift other people. And so it's like a positive sum, like win and let win. So it's like not like competing with someone or just like a zero sum that you should maybe distribute your wealth, and then you give it just to someone, but then you kind of don't have the upside of, like, I don't know, profiting from their success. But this is like win and let win. So both got richer, but Zuckerberg got much richer than Peter Thiel.
That's an interesting perspective, I see. So it's about empowering others to reach their potential rather than just providing temporary aid. Well, can you give an example of how this approach can be applied in real world situations?
Yeah, just maybe, yeah, it can be applied by using equity or something like equity, some quasi-equity. So basically, or maybe some like a next generation things like DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations, and or investing in like Web3 startups. But just like before getting into like just maybe some real world situations, I just like to given the opposite example, like let's say from the charity perspective, is that imagine that you have, I don't know, $100,000. That's like the example Balaji gives. So, and you see someone on the street, let's say a homeless person begging or something like that. Yeah, someone in like a really difficult situation. And usually the regular people, they just like maybe donate $10 or something, like using this US example. So they might be like their net worth might be like $100,000, but they just give like $10 to that person on the street just to feel good about themselves, or maybe to support them to buy something like some food or something. But no one would give, like let's say, half of their or almost no one, like maybe some saint or something. I don't know, but no one would give like a half of their net worth or their property, or their wealth to a random person on the street, because then suddenly you would kind of be both kind of equal, so this like meaning like they would have 50,000 and you would have 50,000, and suddenly there would be like this need for charity would kind of evaporate. And normal people would ask questions like, okay, but maybe did that person deserve it because I worked hard for it and they didn't, or something. So like this is like just like another example that Balaji illustrates with this example. He's kind of take that charity will never achieve equality because of this, because it like charity decelerates, meaning like if you give big portions of your net worth out, it kind of you become poorer. So it decelerates the founders, but also kind of decelerates the founders, because then they become, or let's say the NGOs or the people who get that support, because then they kind of get used to it. It's like a nice kind of like, I mean, I'm also from this like development aid kind of world, so like it's also like kind of I'm partly being critical of like our own industry or something. And currently I'm working with supporting companies, not NGOs, but still, I have worked in this area for like, I don't know, 15 years. So, so this is also like being critical of my own kind of environment or like industry or organizations that I worked with, or and so, but still, it's just like it's kind of you get used to this like I don't know, mentality of just like writing grants or proposals or just like asking for money, and usually it's like. Or at least this is like just like explaining the Balaji take on it, that sometimes it's kind of people need to portray themselves like victims of some, I don't know, some injustice or something, to ask for these like grants, or like they just portray themselves as the biggest victim or something to get to be like prioritized on the for all these like grants or something. But like the opposite kind of mentality is like not of a victim but of a winner, and it's like what he calls like a startup bio, like a resume, like you just explain like how I don't know how many companies or organizations you founded, like what you have achieved. So it's not like listing all the injustices or all the kind of hard situations, but like how you overcame hard situations, and how many skills or projects you have you have accomplished, and how many skills you have acquired or something. So it's like two different mentalities or worlds. And Balaji kind of sees investment as an accelerant for both funders and founders, because if the founders are successful, like Zuckerberg, then it kind of they get rich, but also the founders like Peter Thiel, like their investors also get richer. So both get richer. So it's like a win and let win kind of situation, or positive sum. And like with charity, it's like zero sum. So it's like it kind of decelerates the funders, but also in some situations, like taken to extreme, if this like victim mentality is being nurtured, it also decelerates the founders of those NGOs or something. So because they become like dependent on like these grant cycles, and it's kind of like then the question is like, do they really want to solve that problem, or they just like want to kind of keep getting grants? So it's I mean, there are many edge cases and many situations, let's say, where yeah, this doesn't apply or something, but like because sometimes you need the grant funding, let's say for some research, or if you are starting some pilot, or to de-risk some area of investment, like so like I'm not saying that all grants or grant funding is bad, because yeah, you know, I'm also working in this area, or we give grants to companies, so, which is like a kind of like a also something a bit strange maybe. Because it's like a bit between these two arguments, like my line of work, like, but currently I'm on a paternity leave, you know, so I can say what I want. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyhow, yeah, you know, it's just
Okay.
like yeah, it's just yeah,
Okay.
you know. So, but basically, just to sum up the argument, Balaji talks about like investment in meaning like equity investment. So, you know, you, let's say, buy a portion of a startup. It could be like with Web3, you could have like I don't know, invest into a DAO or some kind of like token issued by a DAO or something like that. But it's like an equity, you know. So it's better than loans, or just like loaning someone money, because it's like more symmetric. So like meaning like if the founder of a startup gets successful, you both win. But if he or she doesn't get successful, you kind of both kind of lose, you know, because they also put their own money there, but you put your own money there. But what is kind of interesting is then he doesn't or the founder doesn't have some kind of bad loan that he needs to like repay or something, because it's like equity, you know, like
Yeah.
you both kind of suffer, but then they can start with a clean slate, because sometimes, you know, not sometimes, but very often companies fail. So equity is like better than loans. That's just maybe my kind of 2 cents adding here. And it's also better than grants, because there is much more upside than grants, you know. Just like you spend the grant, you finish the project, but with equity it can kind of grow, you know. You can yeah, you can own it, and it can grow in value once the business grows and gets more successful. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great example. I think one concern people might have with this approach is that it may take longer to see the impact of this investment compared to traditional forms of charity. But how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not saying that like charity is all bad, and it just like, let's just do investments, because you definitely needs, there is some like place for charity and for helping others. But like I'm just like kind of explaining the Balaji view on this, where he kind of is more of he likes more like a humanitarian aid, you know, when there is some kind of catastrophe or something, or and like neighbors helping each other, or like supporting each other, or when someone has some medical emergency or something. He likes these kind of examples more of like a humanitarian aid compared to like this development cooperation, where it's kind of like a regular, just like kind of cycle of grants, and you only because you can kind of get used to it, you know, over the years. And he yeah, it's some kind of like this NGO industrial complex or something. So yeah, no, you can build like just like professional NGOs out of it. And I mean, I'm not like, I'm also from this environment, so like I can't be like 100% critical of it. But compared to like companies and startups, you can build much more value and more wealth in with startups. So like maybe just to give an example, also Balaji talks about it, like yeah, like the British DFID, it's like the British Development Agency. Now they are renamed and they merged like some like departments. So but they gave like, I don't know, it was 2 years or a couple of years ago, like they gave, let's say, like 50 million pounds to India, and it's quite a lot of money, but compared to the startup ecosystem in India. So India is like the third country in number of tech unicorns. So they built over 100 tech unicorns, meaning companies valued more than $1 billion. And compare that like 50 million to like, let's say, this wealth creation. So like 50 million, as Balaji talks about, like this example, it's like a one a funding round of one startup or something, so it's like and this is like the British, quite a rich country, like former colonizer giving 50 million to a former colony like India, but it's like 50 million compared to like all these kind of 100 tech unicorns that were created domestically. And often there are some like there is something attached, like some conditions or some kind of, so like when Indians or British were not happy about Indian kind of foreign policy or something, or domestic policy, and they were like kind of threatening, at least Balaji talks about this example, like they were threatening to kind of withhold their aid, like, and then the Indians were like, okay, but your aid is kind of tiny compared to, like, let's say, it's like 50 million, so you can't threaten us with this or something, so it's like, just to compare these like two words, like 50 million is it's quite a lot compared to, let's say, what Slovakia is giving, which is like really like peanuts or something. But like to request that the other country to, I don't know, just like behave according to like your kind of views, and like just because, so it kind of shows that it's like this, it's not without strings attached. So there are always some kind of like a request for it. But it's like with India, it's a good example, because India overtook the UK in the number of tech unicorns. So the UK used to be the number 3, and now it's India. And if you compare, like, I don't know, it's like 300 billion, let's say, of wealth that was created now. Okay, the tech startups valuations went down, but it was, let's say, 2 years ago. And you compare it to like 50 million, like that the British give annually. So it's kind of yeah, it's like a different, it's like a order, like a couple of orders of magnitude difference, I mean,
Yeah.
some people might say like you're comparing apples and pies. I mean, apples and pears are like different totally different situations, because one is like equity or wealth, and then the other one is like spending, like annual spending. But even, it still doesn't add up, it's like it's too small of money compared to how much wealth you can create with tech startups, so therefore it's like well, basically you can, it's like a synthesis, antithesis, sorry, it's like thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So you can like come up with something like maybe these kind of donors, they could invest more into Kenyan or Nigerian or Indian startups, so invest more into equity. So you can also provide some grants, let's say, I don't know, for, let's say, some incubators, accelerators, because but even those kind of like it's like called like ecosystem support organizations or something, they can also issue their own equity. You know, if you invest into their equity, and let's say okay, you asked about does it take a long time? Yeah, but if you invest into someone like some equity, even like with Web3, let's say, you issue some kind of token and the people buy it, you know, or a DAO or something like within a DAO, and you have some token, or you have a DAO, you don't need to have your own token. But okay, let's say you have your own token, and because this is like a good example, and then you get the money kind of immediately. You know, you can they can, let's say, use like USDC, like USD coin, you know, like a stable coin, let's say, if they just like for some kind of accounting reasons, like to have the exact amount. So let's say they send you $100,000 in the USDC, and then you convert it into your coin, or you convert it into Kenyan shillings or into dollars, and then into Kenyan shillings, like into your bank, and then I don't know. They get some equity, like either like a normal company, they become a shareholder of it, or if it's something like a DAO, you know, it's like you know, they might become like a partner of the DAO or something. But the issue here is like, okay, you get that money instantly into your treasury. You can change them, you know, into the currency you want, and you can purchase whatever you need. I don't know, you want to rent a building to, I don't know, you want to buy some machinery or some computers or something to, or employ some engineers or some marketing people or something. So you can just like put that money to work like immediately, you know. And with Web3, it's kind of like it's more instant. You don't need to wait. And also, like, okay, like let's say the example that we mentioned before, like with Elon Musk and Starlink, you know, like Starlink is like maybe the most valuable or the second most valuable private company. Sorry, the SpaceX, you know, and Starlink is just a product of SpaceX, but it might become a separate company anyhow. But SpaceX is like one of the most valuable businesses on Earth, and they provided Starlink internet connection to Ukraine when the Russians invaded Ukraine, and they did it like in 2 days, you know, and imagine like the regular grant kind of mechanism, you know, how you would do it, like through grant, something you would need to write a proposal, it would need to get approved by some commissions that, you know, some people would have some questions, you would need to maybe redo something, redo your budget, then they would approve it, then you draft a contract, then you have to redraft it, something, and it would take like half year once you get the money, you know. And sometimes in this like startup world or something, you can get those money like in a days or hours, you know. It's like not 6 months, you know, but it could be like 6 hours or 6 days, something like that. Of course, due diligence is important, and it was like overlooked in the recent years by venture capitalists, and but like waiting half a year or 1 year to close the grant, it's also, and to spend so much time with like writing proposals, it's also not like ideal, you know. Like, so it's just like comparing these two kind of worlds, and seeing that sometimes like these tech companies, they operate on a different magnitudes, not just time wise, like they can be much faster than the let's say the state and the traditional donors, like 2 days instead of 2 months or 2 years to get something done, in just the example of Starlink and Ukraine. but also in terms like a different magnitude in terms of how much money they can produce and how much wealth they can produce. You know, like if it's like a India, like 100 tech unicorns, maybe 300 billion dollars of value created versus, let's say, 50 million by UK's DFID provided annually, which is a lot of money, but it's a different magnitude, completely different magnitude. So, like I think, so this equity investing is the future, I think.
That's a good point. Another concern people might have is that they don't have the expertise or resources to invest in people and communities in this way. Maybe what advice would you give to someone who wants to get involved in this kind of charity but doesn't know where to start?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually just to maybe take the opposite view for a while. It's still an unsolved problem, probably for at least I'm also listening to this like All In podcast, and they discuss this like many episodes in the past, but they discussed some the issue like, okay, when you want to invest, let's say in Sri Lankan or in Kenyan or something companies, it's not always that straightforward because let's say as when you are investing, like let's say in the US companies and you are like a US based investor or something, because you know, you go like it's like a different jurisdiction, you need to know the laws, you need to know some kind of some trusted like intermediaries, and Web3 probably can solve this somehow, but it's very early for Web3. It's like the internet in 2000. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's you know, it's not that easy still, I guess, to do the due diligence, let's say, across borders, you know, like, and across cultures and across something. But like just to give maybe a practical advice, yeah, yeah, I mean, it's be nice to people on Twitter, meaning like don't be too violent or too aggressive or something on Twitter, and because it's kind of like your resume. So like maybe build your Twitter like by following right people, and people who are interested in the same kind of domains as you are, and then build, yeah, I mean, create some content, but also like build your skills. So this is also something that I have to work on, and work on more. But it's, yeah, I mean, get better at computer science, at statistics, and at yeah, and coding, and the writing, you know, like writing, because like with writing you can write like some copywriting, you know, you can write some marketing copies, you can write articles, you can write proposals, and also like selling yourself, kind of like promoting yourself. So it's like this kind of hustling culture. And also what is good is just like have this kind of like grit, you know, like working hard, like maybe as a side project, so you don't need to quit your job, but let's say instead of just like watching television or something, like maybe you spend like 1 hour or 2 hours a day or a few days a week, you know, on your side project to build your skills and your portfolio. So you just start small, and yeah, just don't give up. That's what I would say.
Okay.
So we all have a long way to go in this respect. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great point. Another aspect you touch on in the article is the importance of investing in oneself. Can you explain why this is important and how one can go about investing in themselves?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, mm, yeah, it means like finding first, like finding time, and maybe also Balaji talks about like the news you can use. So it's like maybe don't just read like all the clickbait, but like find some kind of content, like focused content, like if you want to achieve some kind of project, I don't know, call the website or something. So then just like follow those kind of news or links or something that are related to your domain, or you want to, I don't know, improve something like some smart agriculture, something, I don't know, project. So you just like focus on that area for a couple of days or months or something, and you build your kind of like knowledge and your skills in that area, like without following too many links and too many discussions and like arguing with people online about, I don't know, Trump, who is not, it's like, let's say, it's like me in Slovakia or Yuri in Kenya, and let's say, imagine us two arguing about Trump, who is not in office already like for 2 years, and it's just like you can spend hours like with these kind of discussions, just like uh, uh, yes, like virtue signaling or vice signaling or something on online. Just like, I mean, it's fun. It's always good. Or like discussing Greta Thunberg versus who was the
That
what's the guy?
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, and Taylor, I mean, it's like you can spend a lifetime doing this, and it's definitely fun, but it's at the end of the day you kind of feel empty, so,
Yeah.
so something else than that. But it's very difficult, like it's just like a habit of getting your news, like infotainment, and sometimes like it's just good to, I don't know, maybe spend 40 days to have some kind of small challenge to like spend on your to build up your skills, instead of watching Greta Thunberg and Andrew Tate on Twitter fighting each other.
I like the word you use, infotainment. It's like your
Yeah.
word you coined, or somebody else.
No. It's also Alexander Bard uses it, and it's like quite a popular word. But like Alexander Bard that you had on your podcast uses it a lot, like in a. But also Balaji talks about it in a much more negative sense. So it's like, it's like, yeah, providing information, but also entertainment. But Balaji is more for the information and less for the entertainment. But the meaning, like, yeah, I mean, it's, of course, it needs to be engaging, what you are presenting or selling, but it's sometimes it's just good to not to be too over indexed on this entertainment value, but it's like just like, yeah, just learn and just do it, Yeah,
So
sometimes yeah.
yeah, so the key point from your take is to make a plan and consistently work towards it.
Yeah, and block the distractions, the distractions. Yeah, don't get distracted. Yeah.
Okay. Before we end this episode, I wanted to ask you about one last thing. In your article, you mentioned the importance of investing in marginalized communities. Can you tell us more about that and why it's important?
Yeah, I mean, that's like that's what also us two are like discussing quite some time. I mean, it's on also Balaji has this kind of viewpoint of like he calls it like a mobile telescope that looks for like a dark talent, meaning like a hidden talent, around the world. So once people have mobile phones, like they can like present themselves, let's say on Twitter, like they can build up their skills, they can learn through mobile phones, they can access all the information they want, let's say on YouTube or anywhere. There are some kind of websites like brilliant.org that also Balaji kind of promotes, where you can learn like your skills, like in math, in computer science, in programming. And so like this is like one aspect, and but another one is like okay, it's definitely important to invest in marginalized communities, or like communities that are, I don't know, outside of big cities, outside of kind of this like a monoculture kind of like places where there are like, I don't know, people who think the same, but like you can get like fresh talent and fresh perspectives, and and therefore, like, I mean, that's what I'm also passionate about, just like not just like discussing with the same kind of mentality, or the same people from, let's say, just big Western cities or something, but like finding the passionate and fresh talent anywhere in the world. It could be like in rural Kenya or Slovakia, or I don't know, Ukraine, could be anywhere. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a powerful point. I've taken a big, the big take that I have take from you is to remember that true charity is not just about giving money or resources, but about investing in people and communities to help them become self-sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah, Jakub, thank you for sharing your thoughts and insight on this topic. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Duke. It's my pleasure.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. For audience, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you found the conversation enlightening. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, don't forget to subscribe, give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.